Welcome to the She Slays the Day podcast with Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. Direct, soulful, comedic, advice for female chiropractors' most stagnating questions. Let's talk business, marriage and relationships, momming, and self-development. Here's your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Lauryn, and you are listening to the She Slays the Day podcast, just in case you didn't get that from that nifty little video that just played. Thanks for joining us today. And today's an us video, or us audio. We should record these. We've talked about recording these.
Like videoing these.
Yeah, because
Okay.
all my other guests are on Zoom, and so we have all of this actual audio and video of them, but we have nothing of us.
I can clip a GoPro into that thing right now.
It would just, it wouldn't be that exciting. But anyways, Kirby's on the show today. It's been a hot minute since you've been on.
Yeah, it's probably been a month or two. What's
Yeah.
the last thing we talked about? I can't even remember.
I don't know. Was that the sandwich artist episode?
Well, I mean, you heard me on the best of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, conveniently, you made yourself in the best. No, just kidding.
You put me in there.
I did. And we actually had people say that they wanted an entire Lauryn and Kirby, highlight reel. And I was all for it.
Highlights, lowlights,
You
midlights.
were not for it as the editor.
Yeah, there's a lot to go through, and we kind of bounce all over. So, finding, the really good chunks of, there's several good moments in each episode, but it's hard to do, mashups of those because it's, a great 30 seconds, and then we're off to something else.
Can I just, as somebody who has no experience with editing podcasts, give you some advice?
Sure.
This is called Lauryn Explains. When you're editing the episodes, why don't you, I know you have this list of things that you already do, why don't you just add one more thing? And if you're ooh, that was a great little thing, bare minimum, make a note of it, from minute 37, or just clip it right there.
Totally.
Boom. Gosh, you should just ask me how to do your job better. This is why I have a podcast, because Lauryn, multi-talented, better at everyone than everything.
You know, when we're in team meetings with our team and I ask the doctors to just do an extra thing, to just collect some extra information, or make sure you just mention this other thing we have coming up. And
we all look at you shut the fuck up, Kirby, we aren't doing enough.
You don't know my job. So, yeah, that.
All right, whatever. I just thought it'd be helpful. So what's up? We're recording on a Monday, not a Friday.
On a Monday. Yep, because this is Monday, February 17th, and this is going to go out this upcoming Sunday, which means I need time to do a little edits and get it uploaded and everything. So we had to move it back to Monday, because if we recorded on a Friday afternoon and I was drinking during the episode like I normally do, it would be tricky to get it out by Sunday.
So now you're just drinking on a Monday morning.
Bloody Mary before the gym. No, I am not drinking on this episode, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh.
So what's going on this week?
I think this is a normal week. I just got back from Northwestern last week, homecoming. Oh my gosh. I told you this story, but I have to tell you guys this story because it absolutely freaking just fills my heart. So we were trying to figure out, there was this whole new check-in system for continuing ed. I won't go into it, mostly because it's me trying to game the system. But anyways, so I'm trying to get exact details on how you need to check out and check in, but I didn't want it to be obvious that I was trying to game the system. So I found someone who looked cool, like a checker in or outer. And so I see this chick, she's super cool. She's obviously a student. And I go up and I'm like, okay, so at the end of the day, do I have to check out? And so she's answering my questions. I'm like, okay, thank you very much. And we get to the end. She goes, I just have to tell you, I love your podcast. And I'm like, thank you. It just fills my heart so much.
So shout out to, did you get a name?
Yeah, Jules Estef.
Cool.
I think that 90% of that is her name. Very confident.
She's I'm Jillian Estefani, but thanks.
No, I know her first name was Jules because I was trying to find her on Instagram later to make sure I sent her a thank you or at least followed her, but I couldn't find her. And then Jess said, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Jules is spelled this way, not Joules. Was spelling it like the unit of measurement.
Unit of energy?
Yeah. And then I found her. So anyways, no, I just love our little warriorettes. I don't know. They're cool. Like, a couple weeks ago, I was stalking the internet like I do. And somebody I saw I had been tagged in, like a question on some forum or whatever. And it was somebody asking, like, what podcast should I be listening to? And what I love about our chicas is that they don't just go like, oh, you should listen to, like, She Slays the Day. It's fine. It's okay. It's totally neat. It's all right. They're like, it's always like all caps, 9 O's, like, I love She Slays the Day. You have to listen to it.
There's like dinosaur emojis in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So you're not really indifferent about, like, I have some podcasts that I listen to that I'm very, like, I don't know.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's all right.
Leave it or...
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. I was going to say that doesn't sound right. Take it or leave it, but...
leave it or don't leave it.
Leave it or don't leave it type of thing. No, and I just feel like... But then again, I will play devil's advocate against our own podcast, is, of course, the people who are recommending are not the ones who are like, yeah, take it or leave it. So there's probably tons of people listening right now who are like, actually, Lauren, I'm pretty take it or leave it about your podcast.
We're still missing out on haters, though. We don't have haters yet, which, I mean, I don't know if I want to invite that, but, like, it's interesting.
What was I was planning what some podcast episode subjects I wanted to do, and I don't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, that one's going to bring some haters. I don't remember what it was, so good story, but...
and then you found $20.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I was looking at, we don't really do much on Twitter, but we were researching a future podcast thing, and one of the ways I was looking for people was, like, Twitter following, and I just searched the hashtag chiropractic on Twitter.
Oh, no, don't do that.
There's entire accounts.
No,
There's people who dedicate their lives to just being mean to chiropractors.
I know. It's really terrible.
Which is why...
The AMA needs to cut that shit out.
I just don't get spending that amount of your time in your life. It just...
I mean...
There's a lot of people I disagree with on a lot of different topics. I just cannot imagine how toxic that lifestyle must be of spending your life hating
Honestly,
on.
I don't know. This is controversial, but I don't think it'll get any, like, hate mail of, like, I'm kind of at a point where I just feel bad. Like, I've put boundaries around myself now, being in practice 10 years. I used to go down the thread and, like, read the 87 comments when I saw a friend post something about the flu vaccine. And I'm like, oh, shit, 87 comments? Not 87 good comments, I bet. And I would go down and I'd get worked up. And then, like, a month ago, I saw somebody post again on a forum, like, this book of this guy who's a hypnotist. And I think he's selling a book on Amazon that's, like, the quackery profession of chiropractic. Or, like, and it's this guy who's like, wait, I'm confused. Why are you writing this book? Writing a book is hard, dude. What?
Spent all this time just to be like, not that. Like,
yeah, and there's I've just kind of come to this place where, like, one, I am so, like, girl riot that I have to really, like, I can get very passionate about.
You get very wound up.
Oh, about anything.
You've gotten extremely passionate to the point of, like, rage while watching, like, comedy specials.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, it's just a joke. Like, literally they are just saying a joke.
Yeah, by men, though, at the expense of, although that one was a woman. Who was the chick?
Oh, the one that we watched recently who's really deadpan?
No, she was funny.
She was funny.
No, the tall, thin, blonde chick, her whole thing was...
Nikki Glazer or Eliza Schlesinger?
Whichever one was about getting married.
Eliza Schlesinger.
Yeah.
Hilarious,
so, like,
by the way. But
okay, so, yeah, the 3 specials that Kirby is talking about were all, like, at the expense... So, like, right now it's really cool to, like, burn feminism, basically.
Yeah.
Which I have a problem with. But I have a lesser problem if you're a woman. No, maybe I have more of a problem. See, this is the problem.
You got a problem.
It's like, I got a problem.
Anyway, I think you were telling a story about how you don't engage.
How I put boundaries up. How I put safe boundaries up around hate around chiropractic and just kind of being like, yeah, I'll just drive my BMW to the bank and let you, no, I'm joking, kind of, because I don't know how to deposit money. But no, it is like, I see the people that I'm helping. I know my heart is good, and I'm good with God. Like, I am good that, like, God believes in chiropractic. God, I was literally just talking to Laura, our pastor's wife, yesterday about, because we were chit-chatting awkwardly after church, just because both her and I are awkward small talk people. And she was like very interested in chiropractic, and she's like, well, can this help ear infections? And so I'm like trying not to go on like a weird soapbox, like, oh, yes, can it help ear infections? Oh my God, let me tell you. But then I was like saying, because she's like, I had no idea. And I was like, yeah, chiropractic, in my opinion, is like the most godly of the health professions. There you go. There's your hate mail you're going to start getting. Because I'm just like, innate power, innate intelligence. Hello, who's it come
Trust
from?
what God built.
Like, damn, chiropractic is great. So it's like, I don't know. Oh, y'all, I'm good. I'm good with my profession. I love it. And I am about bringing people to truth, not away from quote unquote lies. So like, but again, I empathize with those people. I have no freaking idea how we got on this, but I'm at the point where I empathize with them that they're spending their life focusing on that instead of bringing people to truth. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally.
How the heck did we get on
I don't
it?
know. We'll have to listen back to it. Well, I mean, I have to listen back to it. You probably won't.
I won't.
Do you ever go back and listen to the episodes?
No, I hate listening. I'm like normal people who hate hearing their voice.
Yeah, I don't love the sound of my voice, but I have to edit the show, so.
Do you have to listen?
That
Yeah.
happens.
Okay. Anyways.
Anyway, on a positive note, I think originally what I was going to say when you were talking about the review thing on Facebook is that it's really fun too, because people reply to the weekly slays too. And that's another source of like, fill your heart up.
Oh, they
of
do.
Like people going like, really needed this right now, or like, oh, that's amazing. So I enjoy that because I get to see the replies there.
Yeah, and I get to see a lot of them, but not all of them. They're not all forwarded to my thing. So if you don't know what we're talking about, I'm just going to do like a shameful plug right now.
Shameless plug.
Shameless?
Shameless plug.
Not shameful. See, what's helpful about you being on the podcast is you can correct all these things.
We should just have a segment at the end of every episode where I drop
Where
in on
you
the
drop
mic and I
in.
go, here's the things that Lauryn said. When she said that little video played there, it wasn't a video, it was audio. This is a podcast. Like,
Yeah. But I was listening to Amy Porterfield and Stu McLaren talk the other day, and they both went off about how, like, I don't remember the colloquialism.
Neither of them knew colloquialisms.
No, I wanted to be like, it's called a colloquialism, and I also suck at them. So, shit, what was I talking
You
about?
were going to talk about, you were going to shamelessly plug.
A shameless plug for Weekly Slay. So Weekly Slays are basically a short, sassy, soulful, inspirational email. They're sent out every Sunday night, and you wake up Monday morning. If you're like me, you wake up early. I really like tackling, like, if there's any morning of the week that I'm going to wake up early, it is Monday. Just because I feel like, I'm going to tackle this week. I need to, like, know where do I have meetings, all this stuff. And so it's just in your inbox, and it's just kind of like you go get them, girl, and they're fun, and we get really great feedback. They're one of the best things I think you should sign up for. So where do they sign up for that? So if you're on Instagram, you can hit our Linktree bio, and it's called Bestie. It's just
I think it says
Weekly
Weekly Slay /besties.
Okay. And then if you're on our website, which people don't really go to that stuff anymore, in my opinion.
You want me to show you the traffic numbers?
No, I don't care. Go to sheslayspodcast.com and somewhere on, /besties. Yep, see? Awesome. I know.
And there's also a tab for Weekly Slay now, too, across the top. So
Okay.
You'll figure it out. We trust you. You're smart. You're a smart kid.
But I hate to vague book. It's not vague booking. Vague casting. New word right there.
Hashtag that.
Hashtag vague casting. But you want to, so by being on our Weekly Slay list, you are on our email list. Sorry, I'm just going to call it what it is. You're on our email
We
list.
don't send out emails.
No, we don't.
Other
we
than
really don't.
new episodes up, Weekly Slay.
But there is something very, very, very exciting coming up that is going to be released, and you're going to want to be on our email list. So go sign up.
Do it.
Do it. Okay. Let's get this. We haven't even told them what the episode's about.
15 minutes in. No idea what the episode's about. Thanks for sticking with us. Well, you saw the title. You get to see the title before. So.
Okay, so today we're talking about student loans.
The big one.
The big one.
The scary one.
For the sake of this episode, or two, depending on if we ever get around to talking about it, it might be 2 parts. And there's just probably I'm anticipating a lot of numbers. So we might just need to break it into 2 for easy digestion.
If you hear Lauryn snoring, it's because she fell asleep while I was talking about numbers.
Yeah, he had to tell me, like, don't rush through this. This is information that people want. For the sake of this episode, though, I am going to play the role of confused person who doesn't know anything about student loans.
And she's a hell of an actress. So.
I am really good. So just so you guys know, that's why Kirby's on. Because our story, which we'll get into, was that I made the money, Kirby paid off the loans. And I would be like homeless on a yacht somehow, but still owing $200,000.
You'd be on your yacht running from the government, trying to catch
I don't know what my story would be if I didn't have you. But let's do a listener highlight first.
All right, you want me to do that one?
Yeah, I can't read it from way over there.
Okay, so here is the review. It says, it's a 5-star review, and it says, "Holy crap, I love this podcast. I just discovered She Slays the Day and have been listening to all of the episodes. It has been resonating so much with me as I look to move from an associate to an owner. Thank you for being real and true with your answers and perspective." From Dr. Statler.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Statler. That is, like I said, I really love, so I do screenshot when you guys send me DMs or emails. I screenshot them and like email them to myself and try and use them within. I will say, if you want your review read, the best thing is going to be to actually go into Apple Podcasts and do that, because then it's in an organized way versus my hack job.
Trying to remember, where you saved a screenshot and when that was from. And
Yep. So, but thank you so much. I super, super appreciate it. Should we pray?
Sure.
Yeah.
Dear God, thank you for this opportunity to talk to this audience, talk to these people about such an important subject. Please be with everyone who's facing this, because student loans and debt in general can be crushing, and it can influence every part of your life. The stress can make you a worse doctor, a worse spouse, a worse parent, and it can feel hopeless at times. So please bring hope to those who are in that situation. Help us to speak as much wisdom as we can on the subject, and help everyone out there to be open to hearing a new message and a different message, and looking for a way to find peace and prosperity, both physically and monetarily, and in their soul. In your name we pray.
Amen. Okay, so when we are, how do you tackle the beast?
First off, we should say that this isn't a single question one. So like a lot of times we'll read like a single one. We've gotten so many, and they are been as small as like, how do I pay off my student loans with no extra details, to people who've given us a fair amount of detail. But since there were so many on this subject.
Well, yeah, I've referenced in episodes a lot that like we paid off our loans in 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then I'll get comments of like, wait, what? How'd you do that? I'm like, I don't know.
So we're going to tackle just generally the subject of student loans from our perspective, and from the chiropractic perspective, I guess. But it's not someone's individual question.
Nope, it's not someone's individual. And what are the current averages? So I know the average chiropractor comes out nowadays with $242,000 of debt.
Yep, so $242 for chiros from what we saw, $261 for dentists.
Yikes!
$167 for veterinarians.
How come vets are getting out so cheap?
I always wonder, like, whenever you see a stat, like, without digging into, like, the methodology of the study, too, I never know of, like, do they have more undergraduate or maybe it is just a cheaper program. I know veterinarians don't earn as much.
Oh, they don't?
I don't think the top end is as high. I think their average
I think the average chiropractor makes $87,000.
The average chiropractor makes even less than that. $68,000 is the median.
For a chiropractor?
For a chiropractor, as of May 2017. That's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So those guys are fairly standardized. But that could be...
That's probably including... But that's with all... Okay, chiropractic wouldn't be specific in that because I was going to say... jumped like in my head, is that is likely including women who have their license, who are staying home, maybe, and their income is zero, or they're like have a small practice where they're only, maybe they're...
I think more of that because I think
that would go for all female vets, all female dentists, all female lawyers, where I hate to say they're going to bring down the average, but that is the reality, is that they're like very, very part-time.
There's more part-time. Yeah, I bet there are more part-time females in all of those professions.
Yep. Which is the best part about being in private practice, though, in my opinion, is that like you can be like, yeah, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I only make $20,000 a year. You got a problem with that? Like... So that is pretty cool.
You're a very sassy stay-at-home.
I am a sassy-ass mofo. What you want? Okay. So averages... you know what the other thing I bet? This is just my theory. Is that... Because I saw something about why chiropractic is so high, and yet they're not in the like same forgiveness program as dentists and MDs, is because there's very few chiropractic schools. And so there's like, if there's less chiropractic schools, they can charge more, whereas veterinary medicine... has enough that there's more competition. They might have just more competition for it. So like, school might just not be as expensive.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, in general, I think these numbers point to just a huge amount of student debt in general, and that is the national trend too. Like when we were kind of brushing up, or when I was brushing up for this episode, there's $1.41 trillion in student debt in the United States. It's the second biggest category of debt behind mortgages. So it's even more than credit card debt, which people have been talking about how credit card debt's rampant for so long. Student debt is now even bigger than that. And that's grown $400 billion in the last 4 years.
Okay, can I ask a question? Because again, remember I'm playing winky face.
Yeah.
So I know we talk later about what happens if you repay, and you kind of told me what happens. I won't, spoiler alert. Or not if you repay, if they forgive. Okay, so let's say that we get someone in office, because it's 2020 election year. Please keep your political views to yourself, Mr. Libertarian. This is not the time. Anyways. So I know that because there's so much crippling student debt, a lot of people, like that's a big hot button thing for candidates to promise on either side of the aisle of like what they're going to do for student debt forgiveness. So let's say that we get someone, no matter what their party affiliation is, and they're like, boom, magic wand, student debt is forgiven. If I owed $200,000 and magic wand, like I'd have to pay taxes on that likely. Like what would the government... Okay, you have like 90 seconds to answer the question that I'm...
Okay, one, it would completely depend on how whoever that candidate is, how they would actually roll that out. Second thought, real quick, would be how they would politically get around the fact that you are rewarding the people who took out and didn't repay their debt. Versus people like us who paid off a ton of it. How mad would you be if three, putting that into the United States budget, which is a very big budget, but adding $1.4 trillion in a single year has some strong repercussions in the value of the dollar and our solvency overall.
Okay, so you did a good job. Proud of you for keeping that nice and tight. So basically, my point in that was... in an election year, so I've been graduated for 10 years now, and ever since 2010, there has been like whispers and like all this stuff about like how student loans are just going to get like erased for everyone and no end in sight.
Or they're going to shorten the amount years you have to pay before it's forgiven, or how they're going to make you pay less of your income, which they've done some of that. And we can talk a little bit about that later. But all of the like, I think it was before Obama came in, they thought there was going to be some kind of full forgiveness thing, or like you only have to pay for 10 years. It's 25. Like, I think it actually went out farther.
I think it was 25 when I graduated.
But you do get to pay a little bit less of your income. And they say that the tax thing, which we'll talk about later too, is going to change, hopefully, with different politicians. Not as a libertarian, I'm just saying I would never bank my future on the government doing what you want to do.
Right.
Because they have a myriad of things to worry about.
That was kind of my point, was that like when we're going into the mindset of paying off your loans, part of our story of like, okay, we're going to tackle this beast was giving up the idea that a white knight is coming.
Yeah.
Or black knight, like whatever.
I don't think we're or like a Latino woman knight. I mean,
Yep. Yes, I actually prefer that the best. Oh, Jasmine Star. Anyways, I love Latino women so much. I just love that. I identify as two different people. You can edit this out if it gets weird. But like, I wish that I could either be a black British woman with an afro, like so much.
You really do. That has come up several times, strangely.
I don't know if it's a past life or a future life, but it is a part of my soul. Also, like Jasmine Star, feisty Latino woman, like spitting fire. That's just, me.
I hear you.
Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh, White Knight Coming to Save You. We had to wrap our mind around this, like, okay, we're going to stop paying the minimum amount and hoping that someone is going to deliver and, like, wave the magic wand, and we're just going to go after this like no change or forgiveness is coming.
Yep. And also, before we get deep into it, we need to give the strong disclaimer that we are not financial advisors. If you follow our advice and something goes wrong, we are not going to bail you out.
We are not legally liable. And honestly, so this paying off your student loans is usually against most financial advisors' advice.
Yeah, if you run all of the numbers, and this is where like talking to a financial advisor is great, and we will strongly advise you to do that. And there are special people who are certified in student loans. I'm trying to like look up on my notes what their acronym is. They are certified student loan professionals. So CSLPs is a designation you can get. They'll give you all your options. And a lot of times when you do run the numbers, if it is like, what is the smallest amount of money that I will pay in today's dollars, they'll do all the calculations. A lot of times based on your income, that might be some of these income-based repayments. Mm-hmm. But there's also a risk profile with that. There's also just it hanging over your head. There's trusting that the government won't change rules. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with it.
There's a lot of stuff. And, you know, like even Dave Ramsey, who, if you guys don't know who Dave Ramsey is a pretty big debt payoff financial advisor. And he talks about paying off the smallest amount. So like if you owe $5,000 to
your credit card, you pay that first, then you pay off your $10,000 car loan, then you pay off your mortgage, then you pay out, like it goes in the order of the amount you owe.
Yeah.
Is how you get out of debt. So he
and
wouldn't
some might say
go right
he's
after.
Smarter than us. So like
maybe.
why the why behind, like you guys asked for a paying off your student loan episode. It does align with our story. It's not necessarily the smartest financial decision to make, but this is what we're going on of like, it was like this weight that we just kind of decided we're going after this. It just felt icky. Like I just didn't want it anymore.
And there's the scary aspect, and I know hopefully people have heard this, but like student loans are this crazy weird class of debt that almost always is not forgiven in bankruptcy. So if you get too much
or death.
I don't know exactly how it works with death, but with bankruptcy at least, like if you bought a building for your practice and then the practice went belly up and you could not pay, you would have some relief through bankruptcy proceedings to get out from under that debt. There are instances where I've read stories about student loan debt being forgiven, but it is usually crazy hardship and dependent on the judge. Like certain judges have leniency for people who are working in like public service and other ones don't. Like, so do not depend on, and that's what always scared me about it is I'm, thinking about risk all the time, is I didn't want something that we could never get out from under being over our heads at all time. So it was really important to me in that regard.
Also, the fact that Wisconsin, which we live in our marital bliss, is a 50-50 divorce state. So my joke that I always tell Kirby is that, so like basically, if you live in Wisconsin, here's a little, no, this is actually goes against what I believe in, but here's a joking divorce tip. Apparently in Wisconsin, if you have $100,000 of student loan debt and you get divorced, your spouse gets half of that in the divorce. So my always joke is that like Kirby just wanted to like make sure if we got divorced, he wouldn't get any of my chiropractic loan.
I also have to pay it off and didn't have any.
I know, it's a joke.
You. Anyway, so it's like we said, like there's not, you have to know why you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Our story has to resonate with you. Our philosophy has to resonate with you if you're going to follow in our footsteps. Either way, it is very important to understand what you think about it and what your actual numbers are. So there are loan calculators out there. I'll drop one of them in the show notes. Like I said, talk to an actual advisor so that they can put together your scenarios. But knowing what your actual debt looks like, what your principal, what your interest rate is, what kind of loans they are, because there's so many different ones.
Okay, so hold on here, because you're just kind of like listing off a bunch of stuff, but like, again, I'm playing this role here. Mm. What a lot of people who don't have any kind of financial background do is, it's basically what they do is like, imagine that you know your clothes aren't fitting right. You know that you're a little overweight, you've gained some weight, you know you need to lose weight, but you're terrified to step on the scale and see how off the bandwagon you've fallen. Mm-hmm. And so you just keep avoiding it. And in that process, you don't know if you're making traction against it, either direction. And so like one of the big things that I recommend is then pull up that piece of paper that you get in the mail, flip it over and call the 1-800 number and say like, I would like to talk to an account rep and have questions ready. So like re-go through those questions and this is the very first step. It's the hardest part because a lot of people don't actually know how much they owe. All right, so this topic is super interesting and I know you're all getting a lot out of it. And I promise we're gonna return in just a minute. But first I have to tell you about some of my favorite deals, including one new one I got for you all on our She Slays savings page. So first is my favorite artist and chiropractor, Sandy Arthur. She is the owner behind Sandy Spines. So check out her really beautiful art on either her Instagram at Sandy Spines or her Etsy page. You're going to get 10% off her entire order at checkout just by mentioning She Slays. And also, if she's got any stickers in stock, she's going to throw a couple of those in for you just because you're my friend. So if you've listened to episode 6, you know that one of the biggest mistakes I made was waiting to add a practice coach to my life. It's one of those investments that once I did it, I seriously never looked back. It's really great to have someone to bounce your ideas off of, and especially someone who's already made the mistakes and knows how to fix it and do it right. Someone who sees the things you're not even aware you might be doing wrong yet, or how you could improve. So you've probably noticed I've had a few coaches on the show because, like I said, I really like chiropractic coaching. And if you've listened to episode 29, you've already met one of the amazing women I recommend frequently, Dr. Nona Javid. She's the founder of the part-time $1 million cash practice, right? And you thought She Slays savings was hard to say. So Dr. Nona is this brilliant and powerful woman who helps you build a practice to support the life you want, not a life that gets the leftovers of your business. So if you feel like you're a slave to insurance companies, not getting paid what you're worth, or spending too many hours in your clinic instead of living your life, she's your girl. So all listeners of the show will not only get a free 1-hour consult with her, but also $300 off. Yes, you heard that, $300 off your first month of coaching with her. So check out our She Slays Savings tab on our website to get more info about Dr. Nona and her part-time $1 million cash practice. That's sheslayspodcast.com/SheSlaysSavings and click on Dr. Nona's beautiful face. So one more for today is my favorite techie thing we added to our practice in 2019, and that's the personalized clinic app from Connected and Inspired Media. It's a super well-made app for all prenatal and pediatric clinics that's a great resource for all of your patients. It's full of educational material, exercises, rehab, brain exercises, stretches. You're going to love it. So for more information, check out our She Slays Savings page on our website. And of course, mention She Slays when signing up and save 20% off your first month. Okay, that's it for now. Let's get back to the show. So at Northwestern, there is this day, and they talk about it. It's like a week before you walk the stage, and you get given, you go in alphabetical order, and you get called to the front, and they give you an envelope, and inside is it's like the worst ceremony ever, is the amount that you have accrued while in chiropractic school.
It'd be great if they did it in like symbolic, like they hand you a backpack and the weight of the backpack is relative to the debt you have.
There's some people that
so
just
can't
die.
get off the stage.
No, so it's like, but that's not the number even. Like that number, if that doesn't include undergrad a lot of times. And it also starts going up very quickly. So I have in my head the number that was on that paper, like burned into my soul forever and ever. But like 9 months into practice, that was not the number anymore.
No.
And if you've been paying, like if you've been graduated for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, you probably have no idea what you actually owe. So call and just be willing to, they're not going to think you're an idiot at all. Like they know that most people have no idea.
And the scenario where you don't know, like if you've been in practice and you're paying and you don't know how much you owe, you're probably in some kind of income-based repayment or pay-as-you-earn repayment. And you go like, yeah, they said that I can pay $300 a month, and that sounds way better than $3,000 a month, which is what the other statement said. Mm-hmm. But what you probably don't realize is how much the amount you owe has gone up.
So what are the literal questions that people? Okay, so you'd call the 1-800 number on the back, or if you have a login type thing.
So if you are like month one out of school and you get 2 or 3 different statements, or if they're all under one bank, you get one statement and it says like,
oh yeah, I kept getting letters saying mine were like sold. So most of the time I didn't even know where like they were. So that's why I'm a fan of the paper aspect in the beginning, because it's like, just look over the course of 30 days and like set aside.
Yeah, like they want their money. They'll send you their
paper.
bill.
But
So
like, I had no idea. Like, okay, so this one says 97,000. Oh wait, ooh, fun. 3 days later, I got another one that's 63,000. Are these separate? Yeah, these are separate people.
These are different ones.
So collect those papers, and you're gonna have to do this process like over with everyone of call and say like, is this the total amount I owe you?
Yep. And if they're from different banks, especially if they're, and this is where again an actual advisor or your school can probably help with some of this. If you have loans that are all of the same type, I think you can get them consolidated into a single bank so that you're paying at one number, and then you can get it to where if you're going to go into one of these income-based repayment type things, then they're all in one spot. So you're paying to one institution, but you first need to gather those all up so that you have an idea, because it's super intimidating.
Now, wait a minute. You said one type. What do you mean by that?
So you can have, and this is, again, where it gets tricky, With consolidation or getting them all in one bank, you can have your undergraduate loans that are subsidized, unsubsidized. You can have your graduate loans.
Subsidized means that you...
Government is helping back the loan.
While you're in school.
So
like you're not accruing
covering
interest.
the interest while you're in school.
So subsidized are loans that are not accruing interest while you're in school. Unsubsidized are gathering interest while you're in school. I'm pretty sure that's...
Okay. And this is where I even get, since we have been out of actually paying the loans for a while, and I wasn't actually involved in the taking out of the loans.
We weren't married yet.
I don't know all the nuances, but there's also some private loans out there that, like, that can get to be a bit of a mess. And if you have a mix of private and public loans, like, you are going to need someone to help you, or you are going to need to spend a lot of time deeply understanding what is going on.
Well, it's not like a lot of time, but like it's important. It's an important thing of calling. Is this, how much is my monthly payment? Okay, so what's the total I owe? How much is my monthly payment? How much of that is principal versus interest?
Is this eligible for any of the programs? And can this be consolidated? Are your big questions of, so ideally you want a single place. You want, if you have one that's from the Bank of Ohio and one that's from the Bank of Illinois and one that's Great Lakes lenders, whoever's got the biggest one is probably the most interested in rolling everything up underneath it so that you have one person to call, one place to answer to is the ideal.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
As long
interest
as it doesn't
percentage.
mess with your interest.
What is your interest percentage on this loan is also very, very important.
Yep. So I think undergraduate ones typically are lower, especially if they're subsidized ones or they're the government ones. Graduate ones are higher.
So much higher. You'll
probably end up with an effective total of between 5.5% and 6.5%. Because I think
ours got to 6.8.
Yeah.
So the answer, I know a lot of people listening are asking the question or waiting for the answer to should I consolidate? And basically we've been beating around this bush of like, it really depends, because let's say there's an example where you just needed to take a private loan for something, and it's a $2,000 private loan, but it's at 11%. And then you owe like $70,000 over here at 4%, you might be better doing the snowball Dave Ramsey effect of like, I'm actually going to pay off that 11%, because when you consolidate, a lot of times like interests are, you get
everything. Yeah, you get things rolled in. So this is a good time to walk through some of the things you've heard about. So let's take a broad example. Let's assume $200,000 of debt.
Okay.
At an average of 6.5% interest. I ran a few different scenarios. So what everyone's hearing and what you probably think is your silver bullet is these income-based repayment plans. So when you got out of school, it was IBR. It was income-based repayment. It was you paid 15% of what you earned in a year. So your adjusted gross income on your taxes, AGI. You could file separately, even though married, so it was just your income. So even though whatever I was making, you could say no, that doesn't count. I only made $20,000 as a chiropractor this year, so I only have to pay 15% of that.
Okay.
And you go well, cool. They wanted me to pay 3, or what would it be? So on the standard 10-year repayment, if you just had the money and you paid them back over 10 years, on $200,000, your monthly payment would be about $2,200 per month. And you'd pay that every month for 10 years.
Okay.
If you did the income-based repayment, actually I didn't even have that because people don't do IBR much anymore. The replacement for IBR is now the PAYE, pay as you earn, and the revised pay as you earn, which I believe that's the more common one that chiropractors use because it includes graduate loans, and with the just pay, you have to prove financial hardship. You might have trouble doing that if you're a professional earning $70,000 plus a year.
Yep.
So the revised pay as you earn is what we'll use for this example. So let's assume, one of the other differences with the new system instead of IBR is it's your family income. So if you are married and say your spouse has a $75,000 job and you only made $20,000, they're still saying your family earned almost $100,000.
And this is a stupid question, but even if you and your spouse keep your money separate, they don't care because you have to file together. You can never.
I believe, and this is a great thing. Like, I think this episode is going to have good feedback loops. So we'll talk about it on Facebook. We'll talk about it on Instagram this week. Tell us if you know something we don't know, tell us where we're wrong so we can share it with the world.
Yeah.
Because this is so complicated.
There's so many, yes.
It is so complicated. And I have a degree in finance, and this stuff is a bit baffling to me. And learning about some of the rules as I went, I was like, whoa, I did not think I understood that.
Yep.
So it counts your spouse. You have to report what you make together. And so let's say you did the revised pay as you earn, which that has, you pay 10% instead of the 15% with IBR. You only pay 10% of what you make. And after 25 years, whatever you haven't paid is forgiven.
Okay.
So let's say you as a family make $100,000. You have a family of 4, you, your spouse, 2 kids, classic family. We'll assume that you're going to have 4% of annual income growth. 3% is just inflation. Add on an extra percent because you're both smart, hardworking folks. Okay? 6.5% average interest. Instead of that $2,200 that you would pay per month, if you're doing the standard 10-year repayment, you would pay between $526 when you started.
Okay.
But it grows. That payment grows as your income grows, so it's tracking. So the last payment you would make in would be $1,600. Still lower than the monthly 10-year. You would end up paying a total of $293,000 over that 20 years, or 25 years. The amount you still owe is $203,000.
Oh, okay, hold on. So this person started with $200,000 of debt.
Paid $300,000
Paid $300,000 in.
And owes more than they started with at the end.
But that gets forgiven.
That gets forgiven. But then here's the thing that floored me. When that money is forgiven, the government, the IRS, looks at that forgiveness as earned income, and you now owe taxes on $200,000. So if you are in a 25% tax bracket, you owe the government $50,000.
That year.
That year. So when you see calculators online, what the thing that you may not have noticed is at the end, it'll show like, here's your monthly payment at the beginning, here's your monthly payment at the end, here's your tax savings, what you need to be saving for the tax bill. So I found like some good articles online, and financial advisors know
So
this.
instead of giving that towards your principal, which again, we didn't define, the principal is actually
the amount you borrowed, and the interest is, so for easy math, if you borrowed $100,000 and it was 10% a year interest, and you paid $1,000 a month, so you're paying $12,000 for the year. Of that $12,000, only $2,000 you owe $10,000 of interest. So you pay $10,000 of interest, and you pay $2,000 of principal. So at the end of that year,
you really only moved the needle down $2,000 after paying $12,000.
And it's a little more complicated.
And that's so that's why it's super important in the beginning to know like how much of that is principal, because that's that. When you hear principal, think like if they say like, well, only $50 of that $400 payment is principal, which those proportions wouldn't even be. That means you're only moving the needle, not $400, but $50.
And in any kind of system that is pay as you earn, almost always you are not touching the principal.
Right.
You're paying
just paying
less
interest.
than the amount of the interest you owe per month. So that's how you pay for 25 years. You give them $300,000
on a $200,000 loan, and
you still owe $200,000. So you and at the end of that 25 years, it'll be forgiven, and you had pretty low monthly payments all the way throughout. But then you have the big tax burden. So as it's just a thing of if you're going to do it, and you're saying like, this is how it's going to work out. Here's the tricky thing: is I ran another scenario. So let's assume you and your husband, or you and your spouse, whatever your situation is, you plan on killing it. You plan on making good money. So, and say you're doing okay now. So that same loan, $200,000, 6.5% interest, you get into the RPay system.
Yep.
You guys are making $150,000 when you start out. Your spouse has a good job. You do pretty good as you're starting out in your practice, and you grow 4% from that starting point every year on average.
Yep.
And you still have your family of 4. You'll start at $943 a month, it'll grow with you to up to $24.50 a month, so a little bit more than what the standard one would be. You will pay a total of $425,000 approximately.
Okay.
And you'll pay it off. 22.6 years in.
So no forgiveness.
No forgiveness. But you paid $425,000.
This is a good spot to insert our story, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah, because I remember you throwing numbers in my face, and it was similar to this, where it was like we were doing well, and he was like, we're going to keep, knock on wood, keep hopefully growing and doing well. We're going to pay this off in like 23 years. And it was like, motherfucker.
When we realized that and how much we were going to pay in, we were like...
That was the burn the boats moment.
Yep.
Burn the boats?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
You did it.
You did it.
Do you actually know the historical reference?
No.
Okay.
I was going to say nobody cares, but I'm sure somebody cares.
No, I think there's two different ones. I think there's like, as Hammurabi crossed the mountains, he basically... That's not the boats one. There's crossing the Rubicon, there's Hammurabi crossing the mountains, and there's the conquistadors in Mexico or Central America where they were like, we're here, and there is no going back. You better take this continent. So there's fun.
You're cute. Okay, so why don't we insert our story here?
Yeah, so...
Because I've said different numbers, and if you're really listening, you're probably confused because I graduated in 2010. We paid off our loans June of 2016, but I always say, like, we paid off our loans in 5 years. Reality, it was 6, but kinda.
Yeah, so when you graduated, and we've already said numbers.
I don't know.
You graduated with about $175,000 in debt.
176.
176.
No.
And when we started out, we were starting the practice, we were getting things going, we were trying to figure out our finances, we were trying to buy a house, and so... When the total amount due came, or like the standard thing, which is going to be close to the example I said before, 10 years, it was probably about $2,000 a month that they said, like, we need that starting now. Mm-hmm. And we were like, whoa,
buddy.
We don't have that much. So we signed up for income-based repayment. Mm-hmm. And it was 15% of just your income, which was almost nothing. Like, I think we were paying $200-300 a month and going like, this is kind of nice. Like,
all right, student loans. I don't know what everybody's complaining about.
Like, this isn't bad. Like, yeah, later when we're rich, we'll pay it off or whatever. And I think we did that for like a year and a half. And the next year you had made a good amount of money. And I think we actually filed jointly, so it ended up including both of our incomes. So our payment was like $1,500 a month or something like that, and we were okay with it. But then when I actually took time to get a breath of air and look at it, we owed $180,000.
So it had gone up after a year of paying money.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, okay, so I got to understand this. So I started to dig in. I built like year by year projection things, so not just a basic grow at 3%. Like, let's look at what we think we can actually do. What is this going to look like if we have this level of income down the years? And it was one of those things that it was the moment that we realized we're going to probably end up paying this off between 17 and 22 years down the road. And over the course of that, we're going to end up giving them $350,000 on our $175,000 loan. And all we've done is kind of kick the can down the road.
Yep.
All the while, at any point, if we go bankrupt, they'll just go, still waiting, juice is still running.
Yep.
In your time, we'll be here, don't worry.
Juice is still running.
Yeah.
Is that a one?
Yeah.
Is that a thing, or did you just make that up?
Yeah, juice is what you call interest. If it's like juice or vig is like what
that was
bookie would call it.
I thought that was a Lizzo analogy.
Oh, no, it's more of a bookie analogy.
Okay, got it. You bookie. So that was our like, okie dokie, let's get going on it.
Yeah, so we made it our primary thing. So like, and this again is what we did. It's what was important to us. It became our biggest thing. Thankfully, we weren't living any kind of large lifestyle. We had bought a house,
but we lived in an area that was $124,000 investment. Mm-hmm. I mean, this wasn't.
And I had a car payment, but it wasn't crazy. It was like $275 a month, and you had a car payment from both the cars that we had, like as we were finishing and students just starting out, were fairly low cost, and we chose to live in an area that is fairly low cost as well. So that was a big thing of like, if you...
This is, as we're about to enter the like strategies for paying it off, you have to kind of be with us at this point. So like, first of all, you have talked to somebody who can look at your specific situation and say like whether this is a good idea or not to tackle this. And you are like, yeah, I have done the numbers and I am going to go after this loan. So if you're still with us, we're about to enter strategies for paying it off quickly. But I'm gonna do a spoiler alert. There was nothing magical that we did other than make as much money as possible, spend as little money as possible, and write checks. Write the biggest check you can. And we'll go into strategy, but like, if you're waiting for something like...
Here's tax loophole 42B that no one tells you about. More after the break. Like,
we paid and paid and paid and paid and didn't, like if you follow me on Instagram now, you're like, does this chick ever work? You were always, yeah, because we don't have a $3,000 a month payment. So I've said, all right, so we get a traveler for $3,000. No.
We wrote some giant checks. I mean, I think probably the biggest month we ever wrote.
What was the last month? Because like we had set that goal of like, we had kind of done the calculations, and Kirby had run spreadsheet numbers of like, okay, so if we paid $5,000 a month for 1 year, then $6,000 a month for the next year, then $7,000 a month for the next year. So we'd kind of looked and said like, okay, this is reasonable that we could pay this off in 5 years from today. And Kirby was like, yeah, it's reasonable. And so we paid. And then as we got kind of closer, I don't know what it was. Did we open race late? We had kind of fallen behind a tiny bit. Or it was something where it was just like, oh no, to like make this work by your like deadline that you set, Lauryn, it was like, okay, we have to pay $11,000 a month for the last 6 months. So like, and we were a tiny bit behind. So like, I think that last one was like we had to make like a $20,000 payment because I was like, we're paying this off. We said June of 2016. Yeah. So like, yeah, our biggest amount we paid was 20, but that's how you did it, right? If I'm remembering right, you said like, okay, we're going to pay off.
We were super, super aggressive. We looked at, what it would take to do it in 10. And that's the fun thing is like, as you use a financial calculator or you build a spreadsheet, you get to see how hard it is, but you also get to see how much interest you're paying reduced drastically. So we talked about so just a quick example of if you did the 10-year standard repayment on that $200,000, you would pay $2,200 a month, and in the total 10 years, you would pay $276,000 or so. So $76,000 of interest on your loan over 10 years. You pay that same loan off in 5 years. That's an average of $4,000 a month, and you pay a total of $235,000. So you only pay $35,000 in interest. So it hurts for 5 years, but in interest alone, you're saving $40,000. And when you start to talk about 25-year things, when you're paying $300,000 in interest, like it's crazy. It is. I mean, compound interest. It's he didn't actually say it, but it's accredited to Einstein that he said compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. There's no actual proof he said that, but it's been accredited to him a lot.
Okay. Okay, hold up. I think that I'm going to assume. Oh, here I am. Just kidding. I'm totally doing fine here, but I am playing the role of somebody who doesn't know much about student loans. So I think that this is a good wrapping point for part 1 of student loan repayment. You don't like that. I know you don't.
Well, what the listener can't see is that while I was talking, Lauryn has built a small bed on the floor. And she has a sleep mask on, and she has like one of those old-timey sleep caps. And I don't know where she got it. But she is ready to take a nap.
This is a massive subject, and what I don't want to do, because this is what I will do, is I will start getting bored because I have a very low attention span, and we're about to go into like real life strategy. And so we've given them homework. They know, like, okay, you need to get your numbers, you need to understand your situation, and I think we do part 2 next week of like, all right, so boom, this is how you live paying off your loans.
All right.
Okay.
I can work with that.
All right, She Slayers. Kirby Brunswick is not happy at all that we are breaking this into 2 parts, but we're going to. So this week, like I said, you have homework. Get those, start collecting those names, those business, those phone numbers. If you have accounts, what are your passwords? This is the big thing. So like I do this with things like if I buy a course and then I like log in right away because I got it, I'm all excited, and then I fall off the bandwagon and it's been like 3 months. I will delay re-logging into that course because I'm like, I don't even know how to log in. And the embarrassment of like, I have a password, but I don't know what a password is. Like, do those things of like, okay, what is my login? Forgot password, reset password, then bookmark that up at the top. I had to learn how to bookmark. Like, do some of those really things that like get in your way. They're really stupid things, but you'd be amazed at what small things get in the way of just like realizing your truth and your numbers.
Yeah. So set aside that time.
Yep.
And take the smallest step. And that is literally the smallest step is getting your logins, getting your amounts. Because if you put it into the problem of tackling your student loans is getting my amounts, figuring out what consolidation means, talking to an advisor, talking to my spouse and coming to a strategy, then that's a 2-week big project that you never have time for. You do have time to find out your amounts. You do have time to click the link for a loan calculator that'll be in the show notes so that if you want to, you can run 2 or 3 scenarios to go like, okay, here's my 4 buckets of what possibly could happen.
Yes. And I will say, if you are one of the hundreds of people who listens to this right away when it drops, I'm very sorry to leave you hanging. Go, just a little extra nugget. If you want more student loan stuff before next week, go listen to Jenna Kutcher's The Gold Digger podcast. It's episode 327, Slay That Scary Student Loan. Oh my gosh, it has Berna, I don't know her last name on there. This chick is hilarious. I will say she's not as funny in the episode with Jenna Kutcher, but if you go YouTube, it's called Hey Berna.
Oh, is that lady?
Oh my gosh, it is so funny. I was showing everybody at the clinic, like not patients, but like, I'm like, watch this clip. I was like showing friends. So like, we will see you next week, and we are going to come with like strategies for living small and writing big ass checks. Bye y'all.
Bye.